It's an honor to be here, Chairman and Congresswoman Moore and Congresswoman Napolitano. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm here, as you read, representing not only Legal Momentum, but the National Network to End Violence Against Immigrant Women. We have about 1,000 member organizations across the country, advocates, attorneys, researchers, social workers, former retired DHS staff, all kinds of folks that have been involved in helping build the grassroots movement and the grassroots support that has led us to be successful in ensuring that each of the versions of the Violence Against Women Act and the Trafficking Victims Protection Acts have provisions specifically designed for immigrant women, and we appreciate all the help from each of you and your colleagues in making that happen. What I wanted to also say is to highlight that we should know that to date, over 40,000 women and their children, or immigrant victims and their children, have received approved VAWA self-petitions as a result of this bill. And we're, last year, 10,000 crime victims received U visas, and we're about halfway through the 10,000, so we're about 5,000 into it this year. So people are really, on a day-to-day basis, being benefited by these laws. So the challenge is, and that we welcome this kind of a hearing and everyone who's here to join us in the effort to making sure that in the Violence Against Women Act of 2011, we preserve, first and foremost, we don't go backwards. We preserve what we've accomplished to date. And we know that as we were in 2005 going to be negotiating bipartisan on this bill to make things happen.
Can I interrupt you for a second just
Sure.
to ask you, if you've got these people benefiting, they get these temporary visas, does that then put a target on their back for whenever that expires? Now, we now know that you called as a victim of domestic violence, but watch your back because you're now in our scope.
Well, it doesn't in that way, but part of the problem is that the Department of Homeland Security hasn't been very effective in even identifying the victims that they granted relief to. So you end up in a situation with some of the victims who are eligible for immigration benefits getting detained. Now, we've been fighting hard, the network's been leading the effort to get some policies out of DHS that are supposed to stop that. So for example, on December 1st, 2010, finally, after many years, they created what they call a red flag list so that a local ICE enforcement agent will be able to see that he's supposed to hands off that victim. But 287G police will not, and neither will secure communities. And so if you have police going and doing a dual arrest at a victim's house, today with secure communities, they take her fingerprints and she's caught. If you've got, with 287G, you don't have them recognizing or screening for victimization, which ICE is supposed to be doing at least. And so these programs are incredibly dangerous. We have immigration laws, as you well know, that have both enforcement and benefits for immigrants and benefits for victims. DHS officials are supposed to be doing both of that. The people out there doing 287G agreements don't have anything in their contracts with the Department of Homeland Security that requires them to screen for victimization, to observe VAWA confidentiality, or to take any. They don't have to comply with the same rules. So it's this huge loophole. And you end up with, in South Carolina, in Washington State, and in other places, local law enforcement officers sitting in the courtroom and arresting victims going in for protection orders. And so basically we need to push the Department of Homeland Security to require anybody who has a 287G agreement or secure communities to they should have U visa certification, which many of them aren't doing. They should observe VAWA confidentiality, which they should be retired to do right contract. And in the same way as local ICE enforcement officials, if they violate VAWA confidentiality, they should be fined $5,000 a time. And they should, and so that so that those practices and procedures, if you're going to have these programs, should be in place, and we should force these the communities that volunteer to do this to observe the same laws.
But it should be direct finding to the individual, because you find the agency, they'll find the ability to pay for it. If it comes out of your pocket, it's going to hurt, and you're not going to do it.
Congresswoman, it is a direct fine to the individual if they oppose it on these local officers.
And if we continue to short circuit your testimony?
No, go ahead, fine. Questions are good.
Oh, darn.
Ms. Moore started it, so what the heck?
No problem.
In your testimony, you talked about the effects of enforcement. I think you're outlining what is going on, particularly in secure communities and 287G. And one of the things I think that as we work on the reauthorization, there's a parallel thing that maybe we should all consider. And that parallel situation is going to be very difficult with the composition before us in this Congress to deal with the broader issue of immigration reform. Not saying it's impossible, just saying it's a hard pull. I think then it becomes incumbent for advocates and for members of Congress to look at these reauthorizations as opportunities to enhance protections. And I think it also for advocates and members of Congress to look at the working relationship and the regulatory and the administrative practices within the administration itself. Because there is a lot of things that can be done there by volition instead of by law.
Absolutely.
And I think that as we craft an agenda, it's got to be a parallel one where some of the things you're talking about need to be part of the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in
But-
fact, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I hate to tell you, in this climate, no matter, illegal aliens, if they're coming from the sky, is a good citizen in this Congress. So you understand what we're up against, and anything that they can find, there's going to be some kind of, not retribution, but rather plugging of that loophole or opposing any passage.